Another day in paradise, but this is Miller's paradise here. Of course, the trawl section, which is Miller, really. So, as a young lad in Belfast, SHS, Sammy Miller special. So, all my mates were buying new Jameses and Francis Barnetts and Dots, but we were a bit short of capital. So, for my birthday, Dad bought me one of these here. 80 Villiers unit, trials gearbox, competition, compression. So Miller went to the local scrapyard, Nicholson's, the top of Newtownards Road, picked the lightest frame he could find this year, 1932 matchless, brought it back to his little workshop and got cutting. I didn't spend much attention to what other people were doing. I didn't try to copy anybody. I just did what I thought felt right and cut and shut the frame, pulled it right in together, and lo and behold, I ended up with that first highboy 60 years before I came back with the other highboy on the Miller here, where you see there's no tubes under the frame. So I remember with Bultaco, this was the first Bultaco, and I chopped the bottom off here. It's simple when you look at it, isn't it? Like, why would you have all this gubbins hanging below the engine when you want the maximum ground clearance? So anyway, I did that, got it pulled together. Probably the first in the world to have footrest right back where you felt comfortable on the bike. All the early Dots Europe was nearly standing on the front wheel spindle. Didn't really think about it really, I just felt what was right. Head angles, and messed about with head angles until I felt steered nice. Didn't know anything about head angles, but just felt what was nice. And those are MP forks. You could buy them from Metal Profile. I think they were about $29.50 a pair of forks. So Dad bought me those. That's a little James 1938 James trials tank, because it was nice and slim and neat, not like the old matchless thing. Got that little exhaust pipe bent up, and lo and behold, won my first championship on it. Then we move on to aerial. You all know the story of the great GOV. That's some of its victories there. I had this board at a show. There's 2 or 3 events I didn't put up there. There one Elkridge Grand National's not on there, and I scooped that up twice, but when I was getting it all together, I missed them. So after, you all know the story about the aerial. Then Senior Bolto went to Bolto, designed and developed this thing. Wonderful factory to work with, so quick. You know, getting pistons made overnight, forks made overnight, gears made overnight. Not like Honda. When I went to Honda, it was a nightmare. There were 6 mechanics all having debates whether we should change the main jet or not, which didn't impress Miller at all. But anyway, at the finish, I just forgot about doing any work with the works. You wouldn't believe it, the works development in Honda. It was a new Milton, which is just down the road in the back of our motorcycle shop. We had the frame jigs there. Dave Kane used to weld the frames up for us. We had good engineers there. We would shorten the engines and chop them off. I remember that engine used to be about a terrible thing. We cut about the sump, wet sump, we just chopped that all off, did all the rocker box, we reduced it by about 4 inches, sent it to Japan, and they were horrified over. And then they were on about, I wanted a big bore job, and they couldn't do it. They were going to 6 months development from the drawing department. Miller got an 85mm piston, bored the bore out, stuck it in, and we went out to Wimborne trial. We won the first trial, and it was headlines in the motorcycle news, Miller wins on big bore Honda. So we sent the photograph out to Honda, you know, and then they took the whole lot out to Japan and copied it. And of course, they're still winning the many world championships with Tony Boo on his latest Honda, which was really, this was the forerunner. Then after Honda, we decided we'd make motorcycles. The Miller. So as you see, all my years of development went into this. 325 6-speeder Andrew Moscone Hero engines in Italy, we got together and we decided we would manufacture a trials engine. We would do the frame and the running gear. Made 3 of them, won umpteen events with them. And then it came to production. And Miller got cold feet when he was ordering up 200 wheels, 100 engines, 100 pair of forks, 100, then having to get one of his industrial units converted for manufacturing, employing staff to build them, warranty books, manuals, illustrations. Miller did the widest move in his life when he said, forget about all this. And Alan Clues, CCM, he joined forces with Andre Mosconi, and they introduced the CCM trials bike, which was really very, very, very similar to this. Anyway, there we go. We've got James's, Talon Engineering, Greaves, that's one of the first Greaves ever when they had rubber suspension front and rear. Wasn't any good, so they dropped it after a couple of years. This is a Challenger, one of the best Greaves. So TS, probably one of my best victories ever, considering the circumstances. Welsh 3 day, when we were qualifying for the trophy team for the International 6 day, I was there with this area here, and the 3 day trial was Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursdays, and I had overlooked the fact that on the Saturday they got the Welsh 1 day trial, so I didn't have a bike with me. So Bert Greaves said, Sammy, you're riding on Sunday? I said, no, Saturday I haven't got a bike, sir. So he said, borrow one of mine. So got one of these, and I think my practice was round the car park, and I felt the front suspension terrible, like all these Greaves riders, but how they rode the thing, it was like rigid in the front end. So Miller says to himself, how can I overcome this? No spares, no nothing, but don't tell anybody. But Miller went off, got a drill, drilled a hole through the back of them, which meant all the damping on one side of the thing drained out. So I was running 50% damping, and it was an absolute dream. It was like floating on a cloud. He managed to win the trial. That went down well with the other Greaves Works riders who had been riding for years on them. Miller had won lap in the car park and won the trial. Anyway, there you go. So International 6 day, you all know what they are. That was the first time Miller rode an international state. Garmisch Partenkirchen, 1956. You wouldn't believe he had ridden in Monza on the Sunday, and drove up to Austria, Garmisch-Partenkirchen, for the trial, which started on the following Monday. And so we had a bit of practice through the week. And I was on the the Vals team, the Irish team. But I don't know why I should tell you this. What an advert for the Royal Navy. All the frames broke at the headstock here, and Miller was the last one out on the Friday. Big gap appeared, frame had dropped, so that was a non-finisher. Greaves, Mount Mary drivers, Greaves, the great triumphs that all the works riders race, and McQueen and all the Americans borrowed those from the Triumph factory. Jawa, they won everything because it was just, they were, if you look at this thing here, super magnesium hubs, dual ignition system, built for the purpose, totally bulletproof compared to, all with due respect, this big Triumph monster. And the thing is, if you were riding one of these in the International 6 day in Czechia or East Germany or West Germany, they turned out and forced Jawa, and every marshal had a Jawa, every Red Cross had a Jawa, every policeman had a Jawa. So when you were riding round, if you had a bit of trouble, you just swapped the number plates and carried on while the mechanic sorted your bike out before you booked it in the evening. So we were really up against it. This Don Rickman. Don's great supporter of the museum. This is Don's Farley Castle winnings bike. 500 Triumph in the wonderful advanced Rickman frame, and then later lots of other manufacturers came on making frames, Colin Seeley, Spondon, and really in those days these were the first frames that were, how do you want to put it, made on the drawing board. The drawing department at Airwheels, they used to come a big bloody blueprint and had a million calculations. Whereas when Miller's doing these here, you've got a jig, you got a nice jig made, headstock position, head angle 63 degrees. You got your swinging arm spindle here. You've got the swinging arm position there. You've got the height of the swinging arm, and really, if you look down this here, they're all virtually the same position. So you just come along and pop the engine into your jig and bend the frames at all the same angles and all the same dimensions. So you get a 53 degree wheelbase, you get a 63 degree head angle, you get a swinging arm spindle of about 14 inches, and the back pivot is about 32 inches. So you don't worry about dimension and handling, you just pop the engine into the best position. Anyway, you're getting bored. So there we go, we've got an infield, that's Peter Fletcher's work, infield, 531 tubing, terrible bloody thing. It was good to have the opposition on those because they weren't opposition. Then this is the great Gordon Jackson's AJS. They made that for the Scottish. He did win the Scottish, beat me, and he was on 1 and I was about 8, but he had a fantastic ride that day. So that's it. Still got the seals on it where when you get scrutinised, they mark the frames, the tank and the wheel, so you can't swap those. And this is Derek's matchless, which again, the two brothers, you see the registration number, that's Farley Castle number, but generally they were number 72 and 73. JCM, Joe Corral Motors in France, he made trials bike. This is the cotton. I won't tell you what to think about the cottons. This is the Cheetah. Bob Goldner made the Cheetah. Bit more like the SHS. You buy the engine, you make the frame, and you put them together. And then this is the DMW Dudley Motor Works. Obviously, that's the Black Country in Birmingham. This little bike here's got a lot of history. This is a serious bit of history. That's yours truly, right? Young Sammy Miller winning the 200 scratch race, Saintfield, County Down, Northern Ireland, September 1951. That wasn't yesterday, was it? So the first of 1400 wins. So, but really 150. We rebuilt this recently, and I'll tell you what, when we rode it around the complex, I was amazed how well it went. I had it on dope, and you have to ride to the meeting on ordinary fuel, then you swapped over to, you put your bigger jets in, and you had a tin full of dope into the fuel tank, and rocket ship for the event. And I won the 200 race, and then the big race of the day was the last race of the day, but there was only one problem. Miller had about 50 miles to ride home from Saintfield, and he had no lights, so he had to leave before the big race, and they get home because he had no lights to get home in the dark. Anyway, this is quite a lovely area to have, and lots of history. This is one of the latest additions to Charles Douglas. Came from Northern Ireland, semi-works bike. I remember that arriving, and actually, if you look at the SHS, I won my first national, the Macrum Cup in Belfast, up on Wolf Hill they called it, up above Belfast toward Dun, Dundrum towards the Ulster Grand Prix circuit, and this man, I forget his name actually, Mulligan or something, and these things here, they weren't the best trials rider, they weren't the best trials bike in the world, but if they got to a section before you, they destroyed it. If it wasn't difficult, it was difficult when they went through. And I remember Miller making a big effort on that to get in front of him and stay in front of him, you know. So there you go. But anyway, runs well pleased with that, and joins the classic British trials scene, the big four strokes, the big twins, and we're not short of many of the prominent. We've got the CCM there, which is quite good too. So there we go, that's about the trial section, and another day in paradise.